Conrad, we are sharing a hotel room. We're on our way. He and Conrad on a marshy low budget operation we have here.
We are currently in Atlanta at the Crisp Game Changer Summit. Every chance I get to see Guy, I do so. We are, in fact, not sharing a hotel room.
Just for the record.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, we ran into each other at the Game Changer Summit. We don't get to see each other in person all that often. It is raining in Atlanta, which annoys me whenever I leave Seattle during the winter and it is raining. That is just a loss for me. When we get back, we're going to cover the news as usual. We've got a scoop for you guys, by the way. That's a secret story it's been a secret for almost half a year. In fact, over half a year. So we got the news coming up for you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what Michael Mogill announced at the Game Changer Summit and parlay that into a conversation around brand building through digital mediums.
Welcome to Lunch Hour Legal Marketing, teaching you how to promote, market, and make fat stacks for your legal practice. Here on Legal Talk Network.
So we're here at Crisp Game Changer Summit. We saw some amazing speakers yesterday. I think one of the things that I like about the summit is everyone hates one of the speakers, right? And it's not the same speaker. There's something here for everyone. One of the speakers I just didn't do it for me.
Who did you like?
I really liked, although she started out slowly, I really liked Kat, who told her story about becoming the CEO. She went from Hooters girl to the CEO of Cinnabon, and she's now the CEO of AG1.
Formerly Athletic Green.
Yes, I'm not a Athletic Greens customer.
I used to be, but okay. You can actually, they don't tell you what's in it, and you can get all the ingredients for much cheaper.
Okay, like at the groceries, like if you have broccoli.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, she had a really, really good talk around not just her life, but essentially listening to the customer and then using your internal allies to make changes, right? Which was, it's kind of corporate 101, but it was really, really insightful. I also like Richard Green, who we just ran into eating breakfast by himself. That was
AKA Robert Green.
AKA Robert Green. I knew it was an R. Damn it.
Yeah, I'm a big Robert Green guy myself. If you're a student of Stoicism, you know Robert Green.
For all of you students of Stoicism who listen to the podcast,
I know you're out there.
All one of you named Guy. All right.
What other news items you got?
No. The point was, what did Michael launch yesterday?
Michael launched Streaming Stack.
Okay. And what is Stream Stack?
It's I'm going to read it right from the brochure.
Because you have it in front of you.
Revolutionary omni-channel advertising product, but for the short version is TV streaming digital campaigns.
Okay. And that's built on top of their social stack.
Oh, yeah. I think so. They're using it in conjunction with social.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the point of this, and I fully 100% agree with this, and we're going to go deeper into this, but the multi-channel, the multi-touch, finding ways to systematically hit the right market at the right time through multiple mediums. We all know that this needs to happen. And Michael's kind of layered. Last year, I think it's been around for 4 years where they launched Social Stack. So this was a brand building play. And we're going to go deep into brand building display later on in the segment, but a brand building play on social and then extending that onto OTT and other streaming devices.
Yes.
Which is a no-brainer.
Yep.
Okay.
What other news we got?
Well, I promised you guys a scoop. We found out and verified that LawRank was actually purchased or at least invested in by EverService. And you may remember EverService because they acquired iLawyer Marketing fairly publicly about a year ago. But this LawRank purchase actually, or the acquisition or investment, whatever you would like to call it. Transaction, money influence into an agency. This happened back in June and it's been very, very, very quiet. So we had to do some sleuthing. We've verified this on multiple different accounts, but it's interesting, Guy. You and I talked about the acquisition of GNGF by Scorpion. That was rolled out unintentionally and clumsily by GNGF's clients posting on social media if their agency had just been acquired and if it was Scorpion. That's how that cat got let out of the bag. But then there was a press release and there was kind of a celebration, and Scorpion talked about the synergies and Mark was all happy and like it was in the public. This has been very quiet. This is so quiet that EverService doesn't even have LawRank's mention on their site. Why do you think that is, Guy?
Well, I think that's any change to your business creates some degree of risk. And what is, the question is what is the perception by a LawRank customer knowing that the transaction went on? And again, just juxtaposing with the GNGF Scorpion thing, we know that a lot of people were like, look, I would like to GNGF, but I don't want to be with Scorpion. And I think that there, maybe is a stigma attached with transactions from the client standpoint. And so I think it was mindful for the leadership for this new transaction to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to keep this under wraps through this transition process so that we don't have a mass exodus of clients, right?
I think it's worse.
Oh, okay.
I think the fact that they didn't talk about it is worse because I look at it and like, I don't like Scorpion.
We know.
Like, okay. If you're a first time listener, we'll
link to another episode.
We'll link it to another episode about why we don't like Scorpion. But there's value in Scorpion. And I said this, and I put this in my blog post. They have an amazing set of data. Mm-hmm. I've spent some time talking to them about their AI and their feedback loop. And there is value in being part of a system that has volume. And now there are downsides, which link elsewhere. But like, I think with that, it was like, here's a reason this is a good thing. Right? Yeah. If you're hiding it, mm-hmm. What's the good? There's no good thing.
Yeah. I hear that. I still think that it's not so much like, because EverService could make the exact same pitch as Scorpion. They could say, but they didn't. They didn't. Because I think that they, they're like, there's a risk that people are going to view this for no matter what. No matter what we say, you don't see that.
The thing that I don't understand is like, it's not like this wasn't, we're not like this was going to come out.
Yeah.
And so like, if you, this is just basic PR, get ahead of the news cycle, manage the news cycle. The reality is, while some other people may know about this, you and I are sitting here pontificating about the all the downsides. There's no controlling the message. We have now defined the message for better or worse, and we could be completely off on all of this. This is PR 101, control the message. But the fact that it was hidden, I think, becomes part of the story because why would you hide? If you did an acquisition, right? If you bought a company or you were purchased by a company, you would be looking for that awful MBA word synergy.
Right.
And you would be blowing the trumpet about whatever that synergy was.
And it's like trying to, let's, I don't know, maybe it's just taking a while to get their ducks in a row. 6 months does seem like kind of a long, right? Like maybe, hey, I'll tell you what.
He does this where he's like, very, very like, okay, well, maybe the ill is solid.
Well, I will say this. I'm pretty sure that after this episode drops, we'll probably get an announcement.
But that's the whole point. That's what happened to GNGF, right? It leaks on social media and then they have to do a press release, but they did that 2 or 3 days later. Maybe when this episode, we'll get the press release later. Let me put it this way. EverService. If there is an upside for LawRank, you guys purchased iLawyer.
Yep.
And that was very public.
Yep.
Then you purchased LawRank and it's been hush hush. What's the upside? Where's the synergy? We would love to cover that in our next episode.
Go read the Scorpion press releases for your talking points.
No big deal. Yeah. Okay. All right. When we come back, we're going to circle back to the crisp announcement about their streaming service, Streaming Stack. We're going to talk about display, brand building overall, what those different elements are, why we think they're important. And then we're going to talk about how do you measure success and what are the overall brand objectives of doing something like this.
And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, why not hit subscribe or ask a question? Or, if you're EverService, you can drop a comment and ask for our PR messaging views. All right, so we're gonna zoom out for a second, and talk about brand building in general. And so when in this context, lawyers think about billboards, TV, radio, and the idea here is that you're reaching your audience before they need you, right? People are thinking about you. You've got they're driving past the billboard every day. They see your picture, they see your tagline maybe, or your URL. Not direct to be juxtaposed with direct response, which is direct response is they're looking for you. You're delivering that right message at the right time.
And in fact, they're not looking for you. They're looking for what you do in a perfect direct response world.
That's a important distinction.
Because if they're looking for you, the brand building has already worked, which is a big point on the brand side.
Right. So the idea here is that you're like, I want to be in somebody's head. So at that pivotal moment, whether they need to, look for your services or hire you or refer to a friend, they're thinking about you. And in order to do that, not surprisingly, you got to really be in front of them. Well, you got to have a lot of impressions, right? You got to be in their head. It takes a while to get that message hit home in their head.
And I think the thing that I want to narrow down here for our audience is most of you don't have the budget to do that across Boston, across Chicago, across all of St. Louis.
Especially if you're talking about those, the mediums of TV, on the near TV,
and you have to
radio.
I mean, Michael did a really good job of talking about how the multi-channel reinforces itself.
That's right.
And that is very much a real thing. If you see things across multiple different channels, different mediums, the billboard and the TV and TikTok and Instagram, and you see it in your local search results, those things tend to be a rising tide that makes them all more effective.
In fact, if you go to Think with Google, Google has data on the impact of the omni-channel experience, even on search ads, which is like an interesting thing because you're like, but the point being that if you are, like you had mentioned, if they see you in search, they're more, even if you're not in a dominant position,
right,
they're more likely to click on you because they recognize your brand. And that's why like things like favicons and branding in your title tags and your meta descriptions is so important.
It's interesting. So brief aside, you said branding and title tags. I asked Darren Shaw this question because he gave a best practices for local, and he specifically called out not having the brand in the title tag.
Interesting.
And I asked him, I said, wouldn't that actually impact click-through rate from a positive perspective? We know there's click-stream analysis going on. And he said, yeah, if you do have a brand, that would be the exception.
Okay.
So
I would like to, I'll have to look at go check out the white spark. I'd be curious what the counterpoint is to not including brand.
My guess is counterpoint for not including brand is if you have an unrecognized brand, that's just barfing characters on the screen that do nothing.
Sure. And then that might be true if you're talking about like site-wide branding, but like you're not going to put your brand on your homepage.
Yeah. Fair. Anyway. All right. That's side. Put that on another side. So my biggest point, and I think what I was hoping, and Michael does a very good high level job. I was hoping, and you and I live in the tactical world all the time. I was hoping he was going to go deeper into the targeting side of this, because if you have a finite budget, and most of our listeners, I believe, have a finite budget, I think it's really important to not try and do Chicago or Boston or St. Louis or whatever it might be, but segment that out. And there was a graph shown yesterday where it's like 3% of the traffic is for direct response. I need a motorcycle lawyer today. 97% of it was not 97% of the audience, the addressable audience, isn't looking for a motorcycle accident lawyer today. I suspect that's closer to 0.03 and 99.07%. But if you try and get that 97% of Boston, the budget to do that is insane. And so I think a lot of lawyers don't recognize the value in just getting 3% of that market, just saturating 3% of Boston. And that's the beauty that you can do with all sorts of different marketing channels. And that's where that's what I want to talk about today.
Sounds great. And so, as we're just to jump right into it, what are some audience segments that you would be thinking about in terms of zeroing in on target? I mean, location is the most obvious context, right? Instead of being like all through Boston, you're going to target like a neighborhood.
In a neighborhood, right? I talked to an immigration lawyer. They do a lot of Hispanic immigration. Immigration is blowing up right now, right? If you're an immigration lawyer, you're in the catbird seat right now. And we were talking about, they were talking about billboard advertising. And it is a small firm. But there are certain segments, geographic segments of Boston where billboard advertising to the Hispanic market is really easy because it's location based, right? That's really, there's that type of thing. I look at this in terms of the effectiveness of a dollar spent. And when you're talking about targeting, the most effective dollar spend that you can do is retargeting. This is someone who was on my practice area page,
right?
Who didn't fill out the form,
right?
And I don't want you to lose that.
Well, it's interesting too, because that's a very specific type of brand building.
Yeah.
I think of this, I'm thinking of the awareness, like getting in front of them in the first place. They, oh no, I buy you. But so not to dismiss retargeting.
No, but I think that my point here is going from most effective to least effective dollars spent.
Yeah.
When you think about the dollar, if you're going to spend $1 anywhere on display advertising, I would start with people who looked at the pen but didn't buy the pen, and then let's try and get them back to you.
Exactly why the Instagram ads for all of the apparel things just bombard you with because because it works. Yep, they're like, oh, and they'll send you an email being like, hey, I saw you came and checked it out, but you didn't buy anything.
And that may be a very expensive per impression cost. But because the audience is so small, your overall budget for that is going to be tiddlywinks, right? And that is something that, now, you need to have enough volume to make that happen. So retargeting, they're on your website. You have to have enough volume for that to actually work. So that's one of the issues with retargeting. The next group that I like from a targeting perspective is your database.
That's what I was going to say. That's my number one.
Okay.
First party customer data, or somebody has opted in, they've given you permission to email them, and to obviously put in your terms, say use their email in your ad targeting.
Obviously.
Yeah. So someone that, maybe, and just to give a concrete example, you offer, a free guide on your website. And get free guides, you're going to get this free guide and you're going to get information on whatever the subject is from our firm. And then you take that email list for the people that have opted into that, and you upload it to one of these ad platforms, whether it's Meta or Google. Google, I don't know what the current threshold number is, but it's pretty big.
Yeah,
we're getting Google. Do you know what they are for the social off the top of your head?
I do not.
Anyway, you got to grow
you got to do that.
Yeah, right. You got to grow your list big enough to be eligible for it. But that, to me, that's the most valuable retargeting that you can possibly do.
So because you and I talk about this all the time. Referral business is the most cost-effective business. And one of the best way to get referral business is to have people who have done work with you to never forget about you unless you offer terrible products.
Right.
But let's not do retargeting for the people who have left us 1-star reviews.
Right.
Because that would be done.
Right.
But yes, on top of retargeting, I'm curious what your thought of is the like audiences off of a retargeting list.
Yeah. I think for what we're talking about today, I think it can work, but it's like, number one, the lookalike audience, if you actually get a chance to compare who the audience looks like, it's not as lookalike as you might want it.
So I want to ask you 2 questions for our listener. What is a lookalike audience? And then how would you validate the difference in performance of your CRM list versus your lookalike list?
That's a great question. So lookalike list is basically the platform trying to find similar patterns to your the custom audience that you uploaded. So you're going to take the emails, upload the emails. Platform's going to say, okay, what characteristics do the people on this email list have?
Yeah.
And then we're going to go and try to find those characteristics for people that aren't on your email list. How would you compare the performance of your you'd have to do it in separate campaigns, obviously.
Yep.
And then I think you'd have to, whatever data you have, you'd have to compare that. Now, and this is where I really am curious to get into the depth of this, because this is to me, this is the biggest difference with, talking about digital brand building and direct responses. How are we going to hold these dollars accountable?
Yeah.
Because and again, just to kind of take it to the next level here, you're going to have to talk about impressions and reach at some level.
Okay.
Right. Like those are leading indicators to me of the effectiveness of the campaign. Now, if you're going back to answer your question, if you compare your custom audience to a lookalike audience, reach isn't good. I don't think reach is going to be a good metric to look at. So you're going to have something that's distinguishing to the campaign to be able to signify hand raisers that came through that campaign.
Right.
So you can do something like, enter discount code. I'm just making something up, or enter, how did you hear about us? And maybe it has something to do with, there's something in the creative that's different that you could measure. But you have to get to the point where you're like, okay, we know that this person had the impression that caused them to trigger, but you're getting back into direct response. Like,
right.
I don't know. So how would you do it?
Well, so the beauty of this, and I put Guy on the spot here, it's really hard. It is impossible to get a good mathematical answer to this question.
Yeah.
And there was and I'm glad he was very upfront about this, because most of you guys don't get this. The attribution on this is who knows.
Yeah.
There was a slide yesterday that just said, who knows?
Right.
And it's really, really difficult. We're getting into the measurement side of this, but it becomes difficult to figure this out.
Yeah. I think you've got to just accept that it's not going to be the same as direct response.
Yeah.
But there are things you can look at, right?
And the things are not, the things that you're looking at do not fall back to an individual channel.
Right.
This is what we call the BFA, or the big fucking average. It is all of the stuff that you're doing, because all of that, we talked at the beginning of this, you're hitting people on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and LinkedIn and display campaigns, etc. These things all work together.
Right.
So to try and identify that this one specific channel created something is a fool's errand.
Yeah.
So in that context, what would you look at to see that it's not a fool's errand?
Yeah. So it's funny, because it's actually the same thing I would look at with direct response as a piece of it, but part of it's gonna be qualitative data. Still getting the answer to how did you hear about us? Because even if they get it wrong, if they say they saw you on Facebook, if they say they saw you on Instagram, again, it's not causative. But you can at least say, hey, you know what? The campaign's contributing to the hand raise.
Yep.
The other thing, of course, is brand search, right? Brand search volume, right? More people searching on your name. And the other thing that's interesting is that some of the platforms actually have, like LinkedIn, for example, you can do market research to say, have you heard about this brand recently?
Right.
So, the platforms get it. They know that they need to justify the brand spend. So they're trying to come up with ways to be able to articulate it, but it's, again, very fuzzy.
Brand search. That was one of the metrics that was shown yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I find that data, Guy?
Search Console.
Okay. Google Search Console should have your brand search content, your performance. And that is absolutely key in evaluating whether or not this stuff is working.
And we are always remiss to say it, but based on Bing feeding so much data into OpenAI, get familiar with Bing Webmaster Tools, and you can also look at your brand search data in Bing.
It's great, multiple data points.
Yeah,
love it. Okay, we moved a little bit to the kind of measurement of this, but we didn't hit what you wanted to start with, which was kind of this targeted saturation concept, right? Like, how do you asked me the question, what are the ways to target the market? How are some other ways, and I've got some thoughts off of my head, but how are some other ways? You talk about geography.
You got geography.
What else?
I mean, you can go, it's going to be based on what platform you're on to a large extent, because the platforms have different targeting options.
Right.
But the classic ones are like, high net worth individuals, where they can identify that. There are also some, look on LinkedIn, I think about LinkedIn a lot, especially if you're talking about, professional referrals. That one, you got, business title, like industry that they're in and all that kind of stuff.
Where they went to school.
When I went to school.
Right.
So I think, again, for me, in the context of, and this goes back to our conversations we've had before about how do you drive more referrals? Like, if you can be top of mind with a very targeted audience on LinkedIn, you get a lot of targeting options, professional targeting options that you don't have anywhere else, right? Meta doesn't have it really. They try to model, but you can't be like, just show this to people with attorney in their,
So I think that the key here is what I call targeted saturation is I am not going to try to do all of Boston. I'm going to try and do a portion of Boston.
Right.
2% of Boston, 3% of Boston. And that is really limited by your budget.
Right. Age is another obvious point.
Age is a great thing. And in many cases, we'll use an example. We were on a panel with Top Dog the other day. And I'll use Top Dog as an example. They have done a very good job of expanding into many cities. I don't know how many metros they're in right now. They started Philadelphia, right?
Yep.
They're now through partnerships all over the place. They do not appeal to me at all. But what they've done is they've said, we have a very specific set, and their commercials are gaudy and gauche and in your face, and will never appeal to this, which is fine. They've said, we are going to appeal to this finite segment of the market, and we are going to saturate that piece of the market. And it's very expensive to do that. But when you do that, instead of trying to boil the entire ocean of the metro, they're just boiling a part of it. And they're using positioning and messaging to be different and have an appeal to a certain segment of the market. They know where that market is and they own it. And that's genius. And I fear that too many people are like, I'm in Atlanta. I need to do brand building in Atlanta.
Right.
And if you do that, you're
like, it's not working.
It will not work because you don't have enough money to make it work.
Right. I think the other thing that I think about is I think Top Dog is a good example. The creative matters a lot.
Yes.
Right. And this is the other thing that I think lawyers, they get this, they get the idea. They're like, okay, I got it. This is similar to like billboards.
Yeah.
And this is true of billboards too. Billboard, picture of the lawyer, phone number, tagline, URL. That is not creative in a way that's going to that's going to segment any kind of audience.
There's no messaging position to a phone number.
There's nothing.
Right.
And by the way, you're like, unless you're doing like a 222-2222, like some kind of like branded phone number,
yeah,
you're expecting it. You're like actually using your saturation-based brand building direct response. Nobody's stopping their car and pulling over and then dialing the number, right? That's another huge mistake. The other thing that I think about is, and this goes back, oh, go ahead. What do you got?
You're saying, so I think the consistency of the phone number, I want to just highlight this. Yeah. Consistency of the phone number is important.
Yeah, that's brand.
It's brand.
Yeah.
And this is why I talk with the BFA, trying to segment and allocate. And this is the work that we've done for years and years and years, but trying to segment out the different channels and how they work and evaluate it is a fool's errand.
And that's another good point though, is that in addition to brand, so phone numbers can be a brand. Go look in Search Console and you will see, if you run brand building on your numbers, you will see that number show up in search.
I didn't think of that. That's a great tip.
Yep.
That sounds like Paul Faust should be talking about.
He should be talking about that.
Yeah.
The other thing though that I want, and I was going to come back to your favorite word, which is affinity. And so why not now, instead of just like, because again, this is what's going to happen. Lawyers are going to listen to this and they're big. All right, these guys are talking about ad creative for brand building. I got to do some positioning. All right, so what are my positionings? Like, we fight hard. All the class, huge verdict numbers,
$100 million recovered.
Right. Versus, so they're thinking about like, what do I need to prove to my audience that I'm a great lawyer? Versus, how about the bill? I don't know if we talk about this the conference or on Frega's podcast. What about the billboard that's like, teacher of the month, local teacher of the month.
I love that.
That's brought to you by the firm, and it's like handing the check over to the teachers, or the picture of the teacher celebrating the teacher. That same thing applies to your digital brand buildings. Don't just show pictures of yourself talking about how $1 million verdicts and stuff to build brand, because guess what happens? People see that and they're like, I am so sick and tired of seeing this. Don't show snooze for 30 days or block ad or whatever.
But even if they don't block it, you get lost.
You're blind.
You get lost in the life.
Blindness.
I love the idea. And yes, we've talked about Affinity. Go back and listen to some of the dark social pods that we've done. Building brand affinity over brand awareness. I would love to see more of that in the legal industry. And by the way, that's what Top Dog's doing. That's what Byron Brown is doing in Utah. There are lots of different ways to build affinity with a segment of the population. It's really difficult to build an affinity with across an entire metro, because unless the affinity is the metro, right? Like I love Green Bay, right? And that can be fun. Like
no. In fact, I've seen lawyers that do that really effectively, where their videos are with like iconic monuments in the city, or just partner with the sports team.
But so even the partner with the sports team, if you're going to be the Green Bay,
not everybody likes the Packers,
right? Not everyone likes the Packers, right? And you have to be okay with that, right?
Yeah. The other thing that is another ancillary benefit of doing the affinity thing is you're going to get network effect, because people are going to engage with that creative. They're going to like it.
That's right.
They're going to share it because they actually like it. And imagine the power now, if you're like, you want to talk about the value of your impression and your dollar.
Yeah.
Is now you're getting out in front of other audiences that you didn't even target, because they're sharing it with their networks.
So Teacher of the Year is a great example.
Right.
You do the Teacher of the Year, every single teacher in that city now knows who you are.
Right. The other one that I've seen that I really like are the, you partner with local restaurants. So you do like dinner giveaways, and you can game it a little bit and say things like, tag a friend in the comments, right? To enter into this contest or to win a free dinner. Now I'm taking this to the next level.
You're going dark social, my friend.
I was actually going a different direction. Why don't you take it to dark social?
No, well, so if you're interested in this specifically, go listen to. We'll put links in the notes. Go listen to the dark social content that we've done.
Here's the one that I love. I've been talking about this one a lot. You're doing your brand campaign, Affinity brand campaign. You're partnering with a local business. The only way to enter the contest to win the dinner or whatever it is, is on your Google business profile.
Okay.
And so the messaging is, hey, go search for our firm name and find our Google business profile, and then go click on the post and sign up to win the tickets from the Google post. Okay. Why would that be? It might be an interesting thing.
Why might that help? This is clickstream manipulation brought to you by Lunchhour Legal Marketing.
I mean, but out of all the nefarious clickstream manipulation, I think this one's fair game. But like, hey, go search on our name. Go search for us.
And the reason I'm snickering, and the reason that Guy knows I was snickering, is because this is a ranking factor.
Right.
Google's looking for people. Google wants to put brands in front of people that people want to see. And Guy's just told you how to make that happen algorithmically to the search engines. It's also something they've said that they don't do. But but they actually do.
Yeah.
And not they actually do in the Guy and I think that they do, but their leaked documents share that they do.
Yeah, and again, this all this semantics about like whether it's a ranking factor and blah blah blah. Like, I don't care. I'm telling you it works. All I know is here. You want to know how I know it works? Because even for attorney's sake, when someone searches for law firm SEO services, Google will throw attorney sync as the autofill modifier. They're keeping track of the brands.
Yeah.
That's what Eric Schmidt said. Brand sorts out the cesspool. Like, it's like, to me, it's like fundamental to how the whole thing works. I mean, it's why Forbes ranks for everything.
Keep coming back to Forbes.
Which by the way,
Forbes is a thorn in his
breaking news. Still to this day, we didn't even cover this. There was another November core update going on.
Yeah.
So, and we're in the midst of it right now. So,
how's Forbes doing?
Well, to give Google the benefit of the doubt, it hasn't completely rolled out yet. So, it could be another 2 weeks. But as of right now, and we just checked this morning, Forbes is still ranking for everything. I mean, and if you throw that into Ahrefs and SEMrush, you'll see like the advisor subdirectory in Forbes is going down. So it's trending down. But I'll tell you, for best car accident lawyer, Los Angeles and those types of searches, they're still these are the top spot.
If you'd like to buy a spot at Forbes, you can see Guy's affiliate link.
Well, it's interesting because Forbes is selling premium placements, and so you're a sales rep at Forbes right now, and you're seeing that advisor thing trend down. Like, you are hard selling right now. Like, we have gotten to close out before this update.
They are hiring salespeople because that you're going to need to fill those spots.
Right.
All right. Great to see you in Atlanta.
Great to see you.
In order to talk to you guys today, we just missed John Morgan.
Oh, bummer. Well, hopefully this was a bit more
For you.
we should have sat in that and then covered that talk too, because I'm sure he talked about a guy who knows brand.
There you go. Talk about a guy who knows brand. We just talked to you about brand and we missed the brand lesson. All right.
We know what we're doing. Thank you for this episode. And if you just dropped by and are like, who the heck are these wild people? Please do hit subscribe and be a part of the conversation. Drop us a comment, suggest a topic. We really appreciate that listener feedback and listener suggestions. And we do like to hear from you. Until next time, Conrad and Guy for Lunch Hour Legal Marketing.
Money makes a it makes a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money make a world go round. Money makes a world go round. Yeah, money